back in 2022, I had bought this really nice 1963 Stratocaster. I had it for about 6 months, and in that time I found I just never bonded with it. I never quite felt that it was the exact guitar I was looking for. And I'd played quite a few early 60s Strats at this point and still just hadn't found one that just instantly I bonded with. And when you've paid that sort of money for a guitar, you know, this was, £27,000 at that point for a 1963 Strat in decent or very good condition. It just felt too much to be hanging it on the wall, and I didn't want to just look at it. So at that point, I swapped it for a 1961 Gibson ES 335. But in the time since then, I've got more and more into playing Strats as my main guitar. You know, that's the guitar I want to pick up first. I'd say 90% of the time I'm playing a Strat now, and I really like Strats. What can I say? Anyway, yesterday I'd gone down to Coda Guitars, which is just north of London. And I'd gone there because a viewer of the channel asked me to go and try out some guitars for them. They couldn't make it to the shop and they wanted some advice on which one they should buy. So I had fun doing that. And I'd put some stuff in the car in case I found something to trade with. And I was sitting there with my mate Stuart from Sunburst Pickups, and we were trying Strats out in the shop. I didn't really find anything that I absolutely loved. And then he found, like, sort of in a back rack, a couple of guitars that he brought over to me to try. And before I even touched, he brought the black one over first. Before I even touched it, I just instantly noticed it looked incredibly sort of real. You get used to Fender custom shop Strats, you know, when you look at them, but when you put them next to a vintage guitar, they often look a little bit off. I'm not sure what it is, whether it's exact sizes and shapes or just the hardware or the type of finishing. It never quite looks right. But these guitars, or this black one that he brought over, I instantly just thought that finish looks really fantastic, really authentic. And I sat and played it for a second, and I think it had been in the shop a while. Just needs a bit of adjustment and setup, which I'm going to do in another video. But I really liked that, and then we found there was another one of the same make, MB Guitars, that was a Sunburst one, and I love three-tone burst. And I picked that one up, and that one probably doesn't need much of a setup at all, and it was just fantastic straight away. Okay, I think I'm understating this a little bit. I think these guitars are incredible, actually. And, you know, my most recent guitar purchase before this, or one of them, was this Dale Wilson masterbuilt Strat that has become probably my number one guitar, if not the Thorn Strat that is next to it, another masterbuilt one. Those guitars are just incredible in the way they play and the way they feel to play. But could I say they're incredibly accurate to original guitars? Not necessarily, no. Is that incredibly important in terms of playability? No. But when I saw these MB guitars, I thought to myself, I really hope they play and feel as good as they look, because then for essentially a third of the price of one of those masterbuilt guitars, I'm going to have something unbeatable here, really. for less than a standard custom shop Strat, I would have something that I felt was more accurate, better looking, nicer finishing, maybe nicer parts too. Certainly a lot more handwork. Everything at MB is hand done. I'll explain more about that. But I also think they just sound more like the vintage Strats that I've played, and the one I owned as well. In fact, the three-tone burst one here sounds incredibly like the other one. There's some old videos where I played the 63. But if anything, this sounds better. It just is a little bit fuller, glassier, richer, and it plays much more nicely. But here's the funny thing. The first thing I said to Stuart was, this is an unbelievable attention to detail that Mike at MB has shown here. He's obviously, well, I've spoken to him today, got incredible experience with these sorts of guitars. He's wanted and been in love with, pre-CBS Strats since he was about 15. And I reckon he's probably my age, I don't know, late 30s or something, and he's owned pre-CBS Strats eventually. Yeah, he sort of cobbled together his own guitars to begin with when he was young, and he couldn't afford that, but he's had pre-CBS Strats, he's had custom shop Strats, he's had all of that, and he's incredibly passionate about it all. The attention to detail, I can see because I've made a few of my own guitars. There's one thing between sort of making a guitar look reasonably cool, doing a half-decent relic job, getting the hardware to look reasonably old and getting some lacquer checking and all of that. And then seeing a guitar done by someone who is obviously very conscious of the details, really practiced at doing it, and has great vision for turning these things into real looking instruments. It's a whole different level. I'm slightly going off. It's hard to put into words how I feel about these two guitars because I really wasn't expecting to get any more Strats right now. Luckily, I had some stuff to trade. It was a great day at Coda, actually. They've got a really cool array of stuff. Just a quick glance down here. A couple of new amps over there. There's another new guitar over there. But I traded all stuff from this room. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Now, it's not easy to film black guitars, as you might well imagine, but this isn't my first black Strat. I actually had a McMull S, whatever they call them, a McMull Strat, which I thought was really cool at the time. In retrospect, this looks like a real thing, and that looked like a cool relic job. There's a difference, okay? This is just perfect. I love there's like a restraint here that just hits the right marks to like make it look like this could really happen. This guitar's lived a great life, but it's not just like randomly scraped off. And then the work he does on the plastic is got to be the best I've ever seen, except perhaps for like the crazy expensive pick guards you can buy for like 300-400 quid each, the sort of celluloid ones. But this work is incredible. If I have one thing to say, I don't think I've ever seen pickup covers that he sort of rounded them off at the edges so much that it looks a bit off to me. I don't know if he's done it or the pickup maker. I would probably change those covers, but other than that, everything is just so real. You're not struck by anything that looks out of place. Like if I was in ATB looking at vintage guitars, I would pick this off the wall and go, oh yeah, cool, it's like a 62 Strat or whatever. It just looks spot on, and it feels, this is the weird thing that I was trying to say a minute ago. Somehow they play really, really well, but they feel quite a lot like an original vintage Strat to play that is 60 years old. When I was sat in ATB last year trying several guitars, and I played other people's 62, 63, 61s, etc. There is a difference to how like a brand new guitar feels. It's really hard to explain unless you've played it. But it's like, it's not perfect, but it's like, you work at it a little bit, and it shouldn't feel too easy, right? This Strat to me is a guitar you half fight some of the time, so that you're really thinking about what you're playing as opposed to it just coming out of the fingers really fast and easily. Really hard to put that into words. Anyway. Now, I think the nitro on here is so good because there's a way that the old guitars, they lose their sheen quite a lot. They develop some sort of ghosting, which I can see here as well. There's bits that will be more matte, bits that will be a bit shinier. And this just really reminds me of the one that I had. It's just... I'm trying to convey to you here that I was literally speechless, and I was so happy when I picked them up one by one. And despite the black one does need a bit of setup, some more relief in the neck. I think it's in the shop. It's it's moved. It's a new guitar. Just needs a tiny bit of work. But yeah, this one especially just plays incredibly well, but it also feels like an old guitar. So it's been set up in a way that makes you feel like, oh yeah, this is an old guitar. It's familiar if you've played vintage guitars. And so Mike does everything by hand, a lot of hand tools. If you watch his Instagram, he uses all sorts of things. I'm sure I've even seen him use a knife to carve the back of a neck. And it's just, he clearly just knows what he's doing. So I've already had, in fact, I put 2 pictures up on Instagram just on my story yesterday. Don't think I've ever had such a response to any new guitar that I've come across. The amount of questions I've had from people saying, I've got one on order, or I've been thinking about ordering one. Can you tell me what they're like? And all I can say to you is, if you're waiting for your one, you should be very excited. And if you haven't ordered one yet, go and order one. It just, I can only compare it to masterbuilt. If I'm being 100% honest, this feels like a vintage guitar, like the vintage guitars that I played. It feels like that to play. Everything is spot on. The masterbuilt guitars that I've got are almost like hyper real reimaginings of guitars, and there's something really magical about them as well. They don't feel like old vintage guitars. They feel like a reimagining, a really cool artistic impression, or whatever you want to say about it. And those masterbuilts, maybe they're a tiny touch above. But see, when I play a normal custom shop guitar, a Fender one, it's really hard for me to find one that compares in any way to a masterbuilt. But I could compare these to the masterbuilts quite easily. They're I wouldn't have been surprised if they were masterbuilts, and I'd have been asking, who's this new master builder that so clearly knows their vintage guitars inside out? Okay, I was going to make this a really factual and straightforward video, but I think I've just worn my heart on my sleeve there and shown you how I really feel about these. And I always try when I do these new guitar videos to let my emotions take over me, because that will convey to you more what I think than just telling you, oh, this is what it's made from and this is this and that. When I do the video setting up the black one, I'm going to go into details on the specs more. I'll do it for both of them, what pickups they are and everything. But for now, I want to answer that question that this video is really about. Had I come across these before the 63 vintage Strat, I wouldn't have probably bought that. On the other hand, maybe not all of you or many of you will have had a chance to own a 63 Strat or whatever, 62, 63, whatever pre-CBS Strat you like, or played one. And I can tell you this, having owned and played that, it made me very ready to accept that this £3,000 guitar can definitely match it for feel, for playing ability, better playability, for the looks and for the vibe and that hit. Like, I often regret when I buy a guitar and it's not like say a Fender masterbuilt or custom shop or whatever, real Fender, and I bought another maker's guitar, because ultimately it doesn't feel like a Fender, and therefore I just don't quite feel it in the heart, because I do love Fender. I can tell you already that is not going to even come across my mind. These feel so much like the real thing, more than even a lot of the current Fenders do, that I'm flabbergasted. It's like this guy loves them even more than I do, and he's able to make them in the way that someone who loves them would fall in love with them. That's the best thing I can say about them. So don't hesitate. He's getting a longer waiting list. I think it's 7 or plus months now. And you need to get yourself one of these. And I think they're priced really, really well. They're in the middle of the pack of like boutique makers in terms of price. But, you know, you can get a Sur for about this money, I think. But I think this would have had a lot more handwork, be a lot more individual, and be something much more sort of authentic and soulful than any other Strat that I've come across in, well, any price bracket really. This is one man's love for the Strat, and it's writ large here. It's done very well, and I just can't wait to have these guitars, well, forever. And they're just going to be ones that I pick up and play along my masterbuilts all the time. I hope you've enjoyed this one. If MB Guitars is new to you, go and check out their website. Well, it's his website, Mike Bowes, I think. And so yeah, if you're in the market for a new Strat, yeah, give it some real thought to go in that direction instead of perhaps the custom shop. Anyway, thanks for watching.